Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us on this beautiful Monday as we start a whole nother week. Exciting adventure. And to start the adventure off this week, we have Virginia Galloway on the phone. Are you there, Virginia?
I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us for, I think it's been a couple of years since you've been a guest when Lori went on.
It's been a while.
Yeah, when Lori went on sabbatical, that kind of put you on sabbatical too. For those who don't recall or don't remember or don't know, let me give a brief from the website kind of resume and background of Virginia. Virginia Galloway became Regional Field Director of Faith and Freedom Coalition in 2014. After a 7-year stint at Americans for Prosperity Foundation, where she served as state director for Georgia. She has spoken at hundreds of meetings across Georgia on issues from economic freedom to school choice and receives regular opportunities to share her expertise on panels for other state and national events as a lobbyist in Georgia. Virginia helped promote passage of the Charter School Constitutional Amendment and zero-based budgeting and led dozens of children action days at the Capitol. She's had numerous op-eds published, radio interviews, and local and national TV appearances, including The Bret Baier Show. She previously served in several campaigns and party offices. Currently, she belongs to the Church at the Ridge, Rotary Club of Dallas, and the Georgia Department of Driver Services Board. She's married to Daryl Galloway, and they have 4 grown children and 2 grandchildren. Okay, Grandma, well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I'm going to have to update my resume because I now have 6 grandchildren.
Uh-oh, well, that's good.
That's an important role in my life out of all of that. So anyway, no, just kidding, but I do have 6 grandchildren now, and it's a load of fun.
Well, and I'm sure that's in large part why you do what you do, is looking toward the future in their lives. And
absolutely,
and,
yeah. And there's so many issues, and I think that a lot of times people kind of see government as like a pain and an inconvenience, and especially at tax time and that kind of thing. But I don't think people really comprehend sometimes just how much control government has over every aspect of our lives, including our education and even life itself. So I think that what happens down under the Gold Dome and up in Washington, D.C. is of vital importance.
I don't think the founders meant it to be that way, but it certainly has become that way. You spend the bulk of your time, as they say, under the Gold Dome. So, from what I understand, so let's a new session is underway. I'd like to go through some topics that normally don't make the headline news per se, and if that's okay, and then we'll kind of jump back and forth and maybe take some broader issues too. But one thing, we don't hear much about, but is so critically important, speaking of children, is adoption reform. What are the issues there?
We've gotten a good start on adoption reform in Georgia. There were several bills that went through last year that were helpful, but there's still a little bit more that could be done. And so there's an HB 114, which would give a tax credit to parents and to who adopt children that they've had in foster care. And that's really helpful because adoption is an extremely expensive process. And so the state is just encouraging those foster parents who already have the children in their home, who already have a relationship with them, to adopt them, those that are not able and won't be able to go back to their parents. So, and that's not every case, certainly. Foster care, the intention is to give them a temporary respite, except there are certain situations where they're just not able to go back. So there's one. Then 154 allows adults who are 21 or over to adopt. Right now the age is like 25, and that's not just anybody, by the way. The court would still go through the court, and you think, wow, 21 years old, how could they possibly be ready to adopt? Well, this is mostly for like siblings and cousins, like family members who are older, and they want to adopt their younger brothers and sisters so that they don't just get lost in the DFACS system.
Now, I understand there's a tremendous need in Georgia for foster parents. So this is one way to I guess in a secondary way, if you will, kind of address that need, right?
Well, that is true, and also, I mean, yes, you're exactly right. We have a huge shortage of foster parents, and children are being sent out of their home counties, which is extremely disruptive. Their lives are already disrupted from, being taken from their parents, whether their parents, and usually in most cases there's a real problem with their parents for them to be taken. But then they also have a new school system, new curriculum, a new area nothing is familiar to them. So it's really deeply upsetting. And even some I understand I don't know if this is still the case, I haven't checked lately, staying in hotels because there just wasn't a place for them in any home. And that is unacceptable in every way. So
Carroll
got a lot of work to do there.
Carroll County has approximately, before we get the new census, about 120-some thousand people, but yet I don't know what the exact latest figure is, but the number of foster families is no more than a couple of dozen for that entire population. It's really a crisis, if you will.
It is, and then a lot of the problems that the children come with, people are afraid of those, and
Mm-hmm.
Understandably so, frankly. I mean, there's some problems in, like that child has been mistreated, and they tell, and they get taken from their home, and then they go to a foster home and they get disciplined correctly, like, hey, you can't do that anymore. I'm taking away your Game Boy or whatever. Game Boy is not a thing anymore, I don't think, but whatever your gaming thing is, and a device, and then they go, let's see. That worked last time to say that I was being, mistreated. So then they go and say they were mistreated. So, there's it's a tough job, and I really have great admiration for the parents who are able to do that.
Yeah, I would assume you get pretty good support among the state house for these two bills.
I would think. I don't really see either one of them having a rough ride on the way. And the governor, of course, is behind these and has, championed these things, as well as he's really big on the human trafficking, getting that better for victims and worse for the perpetrators. So that's a good thing, too. There's a couple of bills on that. There's a SB 34, which would allow victims to change their name without advertising in the paper. I mean, they're trying to have a new identity. They don't want their old customers or pimps to find them. Mm-hmm. So why would you make them advertise in the paper that they're doing a name change? So that would keep them from doing that, from having to do that by law, because that's the current law right now if you want to change your name. And then also SB 33 would allow human trafficking victims to sue anybody involved in perpetrating that crime on them.
How widespread? I know we've had a couple of situations here in Carroll County. How widespread across the state is this problem?
Human trafficking? It's horrible and a disgusting amount. I mean, Atlanta was named as like the top spot for human trafficking. I'm not sure that's true anymore. And honestly, how do you know? Because it's illegal, and so you only know what's caught. But I know that I read regularly in the paper where there was a bust of a human trafficking ring. And, I mean, these are not, maybe some stereotype that you might have in your mind about, some 25, 30-year-old women. These are children. These are sometimes 10 years old. These are sometimes babies. I mean, it's just absolutely despicable. And it's done, a lot of it's done online. Back in the old days, there was the, streetwalker, they were called, that walked along the sidewalk or whatever. That's no longer the case for the most part. I mean, now it's mostly, all done online, and it's underground, very profitable, apparently, business, and a lot of it's gang-related as well. So it is a problem. We need to continue to do everything we can do to rescue women and girls and boys, by the way, from this vicious business.
Our guest this morning is Virginia Galloway, Regional Field Director for Faith and Freedom Coalition. The website is ffcoalition.com. We'll be back with more with Virginia after this word.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I've found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. Hashtag We Are Tanner Strong. That's tanner.org. Hashtag We Are Tanner Strong.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradiker, host. Virginia Galloway, Regional Field Director for Faith and Freedom Coalition. Website, ffcoalition.com, is our guest this morning. Virginia, during the last several campaigns, the term was bandied about school choice. And I'm not sure during the campaigns, as in a lot of election seasons, anything's really discussed. How do you define the term school choice, and why is that so important?
Well, every student is not alike. Anybody that's a parent or a grandparent knows this, that your students learn, in different ways, different environments. Some are better than others for that student. And so school choice, right now, we do school unlike we do anything else in America. We don't even do our public libraries like we do our public schools. The library, you can get a card, and you can go to any library that you want within that system, right? And you can order a book out of, a larger system usually because that book is what you need, right? Well, with our education system, for some reason, we're really stuck on zip codes and, lines that are drawn, by your county government. And it's just not practical. And not only that, there's, many problems right now with the public school system, and they need to be addressed. But meanwhile, you don't necessarily want your child to, go through that system for 12 years while the problem is being addressed and not really fixed yet. So we've got to have some more choices. We pay tax money for education. Parents are responsible for their child's education, so they ought to be able to decide what education works best and take the money that is offered by the state, given by the states to the county governments and to the school systems, and use that money to apply it toward a private school if that works best for them. They should be able to go to a charter school if that works best for them. And there's some good charter schools around Georgia. Some that are, most of them are vastly exceeding what's going on in their local public school. And then also maybe even, some homeschoolers object to this. I don't. I homeschool my children, but maybe even giving a tax credit or some kind of financial help to homeschool parents. Because, for instance, I paid, school taxes all the years, 18 years that I homeschooled all four of my children from 1st through 12th grade. So, it would have been nice to have a little bit of relief because I paid for my own books. We paid for our own field trips. We paid for, everything that we needed. So.
And those of us who never had kids, a little relief would have probably been nice along the way. You slipped in a statement saying parents are responsible for the education of their students. You want to elaborate on that?
Well, we just have a biblical responsibility and a moral and a social responsibility to make sure that we're raising children that are ready to go out into the world. Unfortunately, the government has decided that they're better at that than we are, and that is not always the case. Certainly we have a lot of people graduating from our high schools, or not graduating, by the way, but a lot of them are just pushed along, shoved along because, the people who provide education through the government for our children don't, except in a very global way, have to live with the results. We, as parents, live with the results of however our children turnout, so to speak. And so I think we certainly have a greater interest and a greater responsibility in making sure that we get that right.
You know, more than half the state budget goes toward education. Do you find support for this line of thinking regarding school choice under the Gold Dome?
I am so glad you asked, because we actually put that on the ballot. The Republican Party put it on as a ballot question during the primary, and I kind of wish I'd have pushed for it to go on the general ballot as well. But it was a non-binding referendum, so it's just like, you know, do you favor allowing school choice and having the money that is already, you know, designated for that child's education go to whatever, you know, works best, you know, from the parent's point of view for that student. And it won in every single county in Georgia. It got a yes in every single county. Now, some of them it was a slight yes. It was 51, 52, 54%. But in some of the counties, it was as high as in the 80 percentile range. Yes, it is a winning issue. But here's the thing. Every time that we start talking about school choice, all the, you know, school systems are already connected with each other, the teachers through email and that kind of thing. And so they start sending around, you know, all the little teachers groups. For some reason, they think it's going to hurt them. Actually, I think it would be the best thing for them. And I do know public school teachers that like the idea. But for the most part, the public system is threatened by the loss of power and money. And so they start sending around things. Call your legislator and tell them it's a terrible idea and we'll all die if we have school choice, which is absurd. So,
competition's good for the soul, for everybody, I suppose.
Yes, it would be great for them. And also it would get children that were struggling and not learning in that style and in that environment, it would get them somewhere else. So what a favor that would be for everybody to have something that works.
For the sake of time, we're going to try to move through these next ones reasonably quickly. Topic that came on the radar and seems to have fallen completely off the radar, as far as I know, is RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Is that still something that may occur or may not occur under the Gold Dome?
Well, we certainly hope so, and I would encourage your listeners to call their legislators and let them know that it's a priority for them, because religious freedom is very basic, obviously, in our Constitution, but a series of court cases kind of made it weaker than all the other rights that are in the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, and so on. And so it just needs to be taken back up. The reason it's called the Restoration Act is that it just restores it to the same level it was at. It's not an absolute power. It doesn't allow you to do anything, and just anything in the name of religion and break other laws. It just gives you court standing to stand up for your religious beliefs, which right now, frankly, you really don't have much of.
Yeah, I think Bill Clinton signed it in for federal statute, for federal law.
He did.
And then you had to...
And then a court decided that it was no longer, like, that the states didn't have to honor that federal bill,
right,
which is really weird. That's kind of
and so basically it's just a replication of the federal law for each state. So I don't understand.
Right. That's what needs to happen. It's already happened in about, I think, 33 states or so. And so obviously they haven't fallen apart, and all these horror stories that the other side comes up with never happened. So anyway, go ahead.
Let's change topics. One topic that seemingly the first of every session comes up year after year after year is the one of gambling. What do they say, soup du jour? What is the 2021 version of the gambling issue for the state legislature?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, you're right. It's like a bad cold. It just comes back every winter. It's like, it's like sinus trouble. It comes back every winter, and you just have to deal with it each time because, this is basically a fraudulent business. No matter what kind of gambling you're talking about, you're paying for something that you may or may not get, and you very likely will not get it. Every odd is against you to win. It is so extremely unlikely that if you've ever taken a statistics course, you would know better. It preys on ignorant people and what I call innumerate people, like illiterate, you can't read, innumerate, you can't do numbers. So people who don't understand math are great victims for the gambling business. We have a sports gambling bill that's up under the Gold Dome. Also, horse racing and casino bills are coming, is what I have heard. They've already been written. I'm not sure. I think they've been dropped even. But we basically just need to let our folks know that we don't need this in Georgia. If you look at the other states that have gambling, they're not doing well. I mean, you look at Louisiana, you look at New Jersey, you look at Illinois, you look at, just
Las Vegas.
basically any state that gambling is a bit. Mississippi. Look at Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we want to be more like Mississippi, more like New Jersey. No, our state is in better financial shape than any of those states. And the reason is you're taking money. It's not free money. You know, no such thing as free money. And that's kind of the way the gambling people present it to these legislators. Like, oh, you need this income for your state, coffers. Well, the problem is you spend $3 for every dollar that you take in. You spend it in social costs, in jails, and problems that come about with children and marriages because of gambling addiction. And I always say, remember the ABCs of gambling: addiction, bankruptcy, and crime. And they are all documented to go along with gambling. And people say, well, the sports gambling, they're already doing that anyway. Well, that is true. There are always people that are going to break the law. But if you make it legal, not only will the legal sports gambling increase because it will be a new thing, right, but also illegal sports gambling increases because there's the certain element that now is addicted to gambling. They don't want to pay the taxes on it if they win, and the tax even to play legally. And so you increase your illegal sports gambling as well as getting a whole new class of people. In this case, it preys mostly on young men, which already have enough against them in my book anyway, as they're trying to grow up and start a family maybe and be ready to take on adulthood. You're getting them addicted at an early age. In the UK, where sports gambling is legal, there are more children that have, and I'm talking children up to 16 years old, 12 to 16 years old, that have done sports gambling illegally on their phones than have used alcohol and drugs combined.
And just generally speaking, gambling exploits the poor. I think the poor are 4 times more likely to engage in it than otherwise.
One of the tragedies of that is that they think that is their path to success, and that's part of the problem culturally. If your path to success involves going and taking a crazy, wild chance, instead of like working and going to school and acting responsibly, then you've already lost something. Yeah,
it undermines the work ethic across the station. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we can leave that topic without saying, it's almost, and I'd leave it for others to debate it, but the state government, in one hand, tells you to buy a lottery ticket, in the other hand, it tells you to work hard and go to school and get a good education. So there's a little contradiction there, it would seem. Or maybe
quite a bit, yeah.
Maybe little is an understatement. Okay, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back with more with Virginia Galloway, Regional Field Director for Faith and Freedom Coalition at ffcoalition.com.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong. That's tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
Good morning. Welcome back to Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. Our guest this morning is Virginia Galloway, and the Georgia General Assembly is back in session. And I think Tom Murphy used to say we're not safe until sine die, but nevertheless. In our intro, Virginia, we referenced you as a lobbyist. Now, some people, that's the L word. It's not a good word. But how is one a lobbyist in a COVID environment? Are you there, Virginia?
I'm here.
Okay. Did you get the question?
No.
Okay. Anyway, I'll just be very brief. With the COVID environment that we have, how does one lobby in the current COVID situation?
Well, it's a whole new ball game. Believe me, it's crazy. You cannot get what they call the ropes. Normally, you go up on the ropes and you have a little note and you have a page go in. They don't even have a page program right now because of COVID. That's for school children. They take the message into the legislator, and the legislator comes out and talks with you. So right now, you pretty much have to text the legislator you want if you happen to have their cell phone number, and some you will, and some you won't, and ask them to come out, or send one of your legislative friends in and say, hey, is so-and-so in that room? They also have them divided out. So before, they all met in one room in the chambers, they call them. Well, right now they're spread out. The House is spread out in the chamber, up in the balcony, and then in another room, the appropriations meeting room. So it is. You don't know where people are. You don't have much FaceTime with them, which FaceTime is really important. And there are not very many people coming down there. Like usually it's crowded and crammed. Well, they've stopped, all the school groups, which they needed to do that because we've had several legislators actually get COVID even since we've been back and have to go home for 10 days or more. But, it's a very difficult environment, and so it's super important for your folks to be tuned in and to call their legislators and talk to them about these important issues. They can call their state legislative office, which they can find at legis.ga.gov, legis.ga.gov, and then go to it'll take you right to the legislature, and then you go to the Senate, and then you go to the House, and you find your legislator and get their contact information. And so please stay in touch with them. Your legislator probably wants to do the right thing, but understand there are groups, unlike ours, that have a ton of money because they have a financial interest in a certain outcome, like gambling, for instance. There were 84 gambling lobbyists last year. That's a whole lot more than people like me who are fighting gambling.
84? Are you kidding? Golly.
No, I wish I was kidding. And they have a huge budget to take them out to state dinners, to explain to them why this is just the best thing that could ever happen for Georgia, whereas all I've got on my side is the truth.
Quick question as we wind it down. Is Georgia any closer to passing recreational marijuana?
Every time you pass a law making marijuana more available, which we have done, sadly, consistently over the years, the closer you come to legalization. So I don't know that there's a huge push for that right now, but I feel like we're in a dangerous place. Truly do. Mm-hmm. And anybody that wants to lecture me about how marijuana is natural and safe, I would challenge them to read the book, Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence, which is a very well-researched book that goes all around to states who have legalized it and to other countries that have legalized it. It's worldwide in scale, and it's also historical. And it's a super book written by a journalist who is an investigative journalist. So,
do you remember the name of the author?
Oh, goodness.
Well, that's okay. Tell me the title of it again.
Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence.
Okay, very good. All right, and basically if someone wants to get in touch with you or to learn more, I assume just simply go to the website?
Yes, although I've got to update that bio. But, yeah, they can go to our website and they can go to our Facebook page, and we love to hear from them. We have a Faith and Freedom Coalition of Georgia Facebook page, so they would get more information about state things happening there.
Our guest this morning has been Virginia Galloway, Faith and Freedom Coalition. I hope to have you back on a regular basis very soon, Virginia. Thank you for being with us.